What are you going to do? It happens.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Hang on, Los
Live from the RamCave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the November 25th, 2024 Airing of Grievances edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues? Get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Bench the app. Don't take a goose egg. Don't take a zero because you left a non-starting player in your fantasy lineup. Download Bench the app today and dominate your fantasy season. As I was doing that opening, the airing of grievances, I was reminded that a friend of mine texted me and wondered if I was going to use foul language today. And as I was speaking, that thing popped into my head, using foul language. And I guess you're allowed to. I hear it all the time now. So, but nah, that's low-hanging fruit, right? But yeah, boy, you know, all I could think of was the scene in A Christmas Story where they're getting up for breakfast in the morning, dad's leaving to work, and then the furnace in the basement goes off and it starts making all that bang, bang, bang. And, you know, Darren McGavin gives that, it's a clinker, and he goes down there to battle the furnace. Yeah, it was a clinker last night, just an absolute clinker. They had one job to do. You do this job and you win. One job. They had to stop Saquon, and they didn't stop Saquon. And they didn't need to stone Saquon and keep him to less than 50 yards rushing. They just needed to let him go off like a bomb. If he just goes off like a bomb, not like a supernova, then maybe the Rams are in this game, right? And you could beat up the defense, and we're going to take our turns doing that. But let's also remember that wasn't the New England Patriots offensive line, right? It wasn't. Is this team capable? Of course it is. But 2 long TD runs, a fumble in the red zone, and if they had just held Saquon to an average great game, right? Let him have a great game. 125 yards and 2 touchdowns, right? Okay, that's great. But instead, you know, he flipped the universe last night, and the Rams were in the way. All right, it's time for the airing of grievances. We're close to Festivus. My family used to celebrate Festivus on Black Friday. We know it's more of a December holiday, but part of Festivus is the airing of grievances. And yeah, it's time to air the grievances. If the Rams had beaten Miami, this Philly loss wouldn't be as tough. Who looks tougher today? Rams absolutely gave away the game against Miami and got their butts handed to them by Philly. Philly loss was expected. I think for months we were talking about it. I went with my heart. I went with my friends. The great Tim Burns said the Rams were going to be Philly. Paul Kistler of Kistler Law, I had lunch with him on Thursday. He was feeling good about the Rams. Shea Stewart, one of the founders of Bench the app, was telling me he's believing in the Rams. And so what did I do? I went with my friends, right? And everything up till Wednesday, I was feeling negative, and I let you guys down. I was swayed, and I took the Rams, and boy, we paid the price. But that thing is here again. You beat Miami. This Philly loss is tolerable. It's tolerable. 2, McVay. Got to talk to McVay. And this is what I don't want to hear, is I don't want to hear, well, McVay's smarter than you, otherwise you would have the job.
That is incredibly jejune.
Absolutely. We're fans. We watch the game. He is smarter than me, but you know what? He was pretty stupid last night.
That is incredibly jejune.
And I'm not going to talk about his play calling. His play calling was fine. Everything was fine, but here's my problem. Everything in the NFC West is going to go down to the end. When you're down 23 points with less than 2 minutes to play and you're leaving your starters in the game, what was he thinking?
That is incredibly jejune.
It was absolutely brain dead. And if Kupp got hurt, if Nakua got hurt, if Williams got hurt, If Stafford got hurt, then honestly, McVay should have been brought upstairs. And if Snead himself doesn't have the nad to do it, Kroenke should have called him up there, say, Sean, I love you. You're my coach. But you know what? Get a clue. You're down by 23 points. Get your quarterback out of the game. He's 36, and basically your offensive line said, here, let's turn our quarterback into a piñata on Sunday night. Get him out of the game. I don't care that you lost 37-20. I don't feel better that it was only 37-20. Get him, Kupp, Nakua, Williams, get them out of the game. I was all for leaving the offensive line out there. Let them continue to be humiliated. But this is what you got Jimmy G for. Stick his butt out there and let him get creamed for the last 2 minutes of the game. Wake up and smell the pizza. And I do not want to hear, McVay knows what he's. No. We've got eyes. We saw it. This was really a bad deal. Working down the list of the airing of grievances, I'm finally ready to admit we've got a kicking problem. Cardi has opened the door for tryouts. He's opened the door. Now, are you going to find anybody better? I doubt it. I don't know. Anybody that can kick and chew gum at the same time has probably already been signed. But you know what? Cardi needs tryouts. And then we're going to find out, right? He needs to be beaten. What you can do is cut him, sign him to the practice squad, let him come back and compete next year. Let him hang around with Tanner Brown for a while, who hangs around forever and never gets to kick in a real game, right? Just do that. Bring somebody else in. If the season tanks and you lose in New Orleans next week and the season just looks like it's all slipping away, let Cardi kick the rest of the season, and then you don't have to fiddle with him next spring, next summer, and you can just go a whole new route if he just dies on a vine this year. But whatever the case is, Cardi has opened himself up to be tested and to be trying out and to compete for his job this week. That's what he should be doing on Thanksgiving. I don't want to hear about Stanford, North Carolina, wherever he's from. Cardi needs to be fighting for his job on Thanksgiving. There we go. Number 4, I love Kyron Williams. I love him. But he's trying really hard to get Blake Corum some playing time. And then, so unless he spends the next 6 weeks and possibly a playoff appearance playing at a high level, not fumbling the ball, the Rams are not going to have to worry about getting him a second contract, right? If he had continued at the pace that he had been playing at for most of this year, then the Rams might have been in a dilemma because he was on a 20 touchdown pace. And you get to the end of the season, it's like, you know what? Do we need to rework his contract now, which is a better deal for us than waiting? But now, I don't think so. You got to take care of the ball. Sorry. I love Kyron Williams, but we knew Blake Corum was drafted to be Kyron Williams' replacement. But it may come sooner than later unless the dude cleans up his act. Airing grievances number 5. I'm not going to cuss. I have a pastel word for this. It's a tad bit Bolshoi that a challenge flag is recognized after the snap. What world are we living in, right? What world? If they can't get it out, if they can't get their reviewers up the stairs and Sirianni can't get it out and he can't get it out for the refs to see it, we got to have a call from New York or someplace else and no, it's not fair. Hey, what are the rules here, right? The ball was snapped. The play was run. It's over. That's why you have rules. And it's not the Rams' fault that Sirianni got the flag out late. It's not the Rams. He did get it out late because he didn't get it out for the refs to see it. And if the refs didn't see it, that's on them. Let the NFL issue one of those meaningless apologies later. I don't know if it would have made any difference at the end of the game, the way the game turned out. But it's just one of those things. It's like, wait a second. And everyone's whining about the pass interference calls the Rams got. You had a play run, and then they reversed it like the play never happened. It was uncreated so they can honor the flag that Sirianni threw late. And then if you want a penalty, take it, right? But this, I want the penalty, I don't want the penalty. The decision maker by the Eagles is slower than counting votes in California, right? The refs stuck it to both teams. Again, it's airing of grievances time. Number 6, Steve Avila. Hey, man, lay off the buffet and get to the weight room. Either he came back too soon and he can't plant himself with that knee, or he's been skipping workouts because he's getting his butt posterized all over the place. He looked horrible last night. Horrible. We didn't need to wait for PFF to come in with Logan Bruss numbers or Bobby Evans numbers. Steve Avila, we know, is better than this, but he does not look strong. And it's either his knee, or he's just not been working out. He's been eating, but not eating on the field. And you know what? I know that was a better defense last night, but you know what? I think the Rams could have gotten a better performance out of Justin Diedick than they got out of Steve Avila. I also think, well, we'll talk about the offensive line in a second here. But yeah, Steve Avila, I think the party's over right now. We loved him last year. We still love him, but we have to call him out, right? Number 7, I like Darius Williams. Darius Williams is not a bad cornerback, but he doesn't have, and he's the best Rams cornerback, but he just got out-muscled, out-physicaled, out everything by A.J. Brown yesterday. There was nothing he could do about it. He's too small. It's like sending Muggsy Bogues out to guard Shaq. It just wasn't going to work, right? Just wasn't going to work. Again, Williams isn't bad, but Brown is that much stronger, bigger, and better. And here's the thing. When the Rams played Seattle earlier, a couple weeks ago, DK Metcalf wasn't playing. And now DK Metcalf is back. And DK Metcalf's going to belong to Darius Williams. And I think A.J. Brown's a better receiver, more consistent than DK Metcalf. But Darius Williams is going to be the guy that has to deal with DK Metcalf. Something to think about going forward to week 18. Okay, speaking of penalties again. Pass interference on Puka Nacua. Michael Irving went to the Hall of Fame pushing off 10 times worse than Nacua did last night, and they called pass interference. So I got to sit here and hear Philly fans and other people complain about, oh, the Rams don't score without those pass interference penalties. Hey, the refs jobbed everybody last night. Everybody. So I'm furious about that. Alaric Jackson, looking at the offensive line, Alaric Jackson, he graded out well. I don't think he looked that good. Steve Avila graded out poorly. I thought he looked horrible. Bo Limmer did not look good. Kevin Dotson graded out as like number 1 here. He was in the 80s and everything, and I don't think he looked that good. I just don't. I think he was okay. Warren McClendon actually graded out pretty good run-wise, average, less than average pass blocking, and he didn't look that good either. Warren McClendon's a 5th-round pick, okay? He's a 5th-round pick that worked against New England. I like Warren McClendon. I think Warren McClendon could work. I think Warren McClendon could do good. I think he did a better job than Joe Noteboom, right? He's not Rob Havenstein. And it's just going to take time for Warren McClendon to get up to NFL speed. And that's what brings me up to this again. Joe Noteboom was good, but he never got better. Bobby Evans never got better. Coleman Shelton did. Logan Bruss couldn't come back. Just trying to think of some of these guys, right? That some of these guys aren't being developed, right? They're just not getting to that next level. And then that's where we come to this. We come to this here where you're looking at this Rams team. And I think what we're seeing with the Rams is, and we're astute enough to see this, we're astute enough to see they've got talent, right? And that's what's so frustrating. This isn't 2022 with Odie Abouche and Matt Skura and Jeremiah Colon, all those guys on the offensive line. We could see this team has great potential, right? And we could say that without being totally fanboy. This team should be a playoff team. It should be. But I think we failed to recognize, and I'm going to throw myself into this. I think what we failed to recognize is that in our youth, when we were young, we were often inconsistent, right? We had to learn things like discipline and different things of being to work on time, of getting the job done, getting our homework done, getting our beds made, whatever it was for you, right? It takes time to master life, right? And I think for all these guys who've gotten to the NFL and we see all their talent, I think it takes time for them to understand and master NFL life. And that's why we're looking at this team and we're seeing moments where Jarrett Verse is pancaking Jordan Mailata, which was just unbelievable, right? We're seeing moments where Braden Fisk is just blowing through there. We're seeing these moments. We're just not seeing it consistent enough, right? We're just not seeing it consistently. And there's part of the problem, right? It's got to be consistent because honestly, we don't know. We don't know which team is going to show up. The Philly front is better than the New England front on defense. Give you credit for that. Totally agreeing with that. But the Rams offensive line looked so incompetent last night that they shouldn't have looked that bad. They just shouldn't have looked that bad. And it's like, where's their head at, right? And it's going to take time. I still believe the team is close. They're going to have to spend another premium pick on offensive linemen, though. They're just going to have to, because I think Steve Avila's play is telling them to. And while we've appreciated the play of Bo Limmer, that doesn't mean Bo Limmer is Ken Iman is going to be our starting center for the next 10 years. I hope he is, but we don't know that. There was a reason he went in the 6th round, right? And while they're going to spend premium picks on that, they're going to have to spend a number 1 on a cornerback. A cornerback has to be a number 1 pick next. If they can find the guy. If they can find the right guy, they got to spend a number 1 on a cornerback. Just the way it is. And an off-ball linebacker and another cornerback on day 3. I think what we're seeing with Spates, you're just seeing, I see a guy that's kind of light. I see a guy that can move fast. I see a guy that's not ready for coverage. I see a guy that can get blown up. With him on the field, I think Roseman's playing to the max of his capacity. He's a special teamer who's playing to the max of his capacity, and it's less than good, right? It's all right. It's all right. It's just not good to great. And so there are things about this team that really, really needs help. And so we'll get to that. I got to go to around the NFL and other places, but let's get to any questions we have first. Tim Burns is here. Did the Rams really do enough to protect Stafford this season to make him return in 2025? While overperforming, yes, this wasn't a great line for Stafford. I think they thought they did. Alaric Jackson has proven for the most part this year to be solid. Havenstein's missed 3 games. That wasn't in the books. The Jonah Jackson thing, okay, you whiffed. Bo Limmer was competent. He's competent enough. But Dotson's kind of rounding back into the form he was in last year. But Steve Avila, missing more than half the season so far, and he hasn't looked great since coming back. Did you just see him getting blown up? He looked like, he looked like Jelly Roll. He just looked like he was just getting pushed all over the thing, right? If he was in Full Metal Jacket, man, Sergeant Hartman would be all over this guy because he's a fat, disgusting piece of goo, right? He can't have any jelly donuts, and he looks like he's had a whole lot of them. He needs to clean up his act. And I love the guy, but he needs to get back to where he was. Tim Burns, in the end, we all penciled this game as a loss 3 months ago, so it's not a surprise. Yes, Mr. Burns, but you pulled me to the dark side. You pulled me to the dark side and forced me to believe. Tim Burns, Kyron has a fumble every 15 runs the last month. Will that factor in them keeping him long term? Yeah, just like we talked about it. Absolutely. I think so. I think the one thing is he's got another year on his contract, and the way this last month has kind of played out, I don't think the Rams have to worry about extending him early, right? If he had finished the year the way he was on pace, 20 touchdowns and none of these fumble issues, I think the Rams would have been in a rough spot. I argued that he's an elite back. And when he's not doing those things, he is an elite back. Now, he's not Saquon, but he is an elite back when he's doing those things. But he's not doing those things right now. And he's got a lot of Jared Cook in him, right? Where Jared Cook would giveth and Jared Cook taketh away. And Kyron's doing that right now. He giveth and he taketh away. And so the Rams don't have to stress. And I don't think he's going to be in a position to say, hey, man, I'm going to my last year contract. I want a bump. It's like, yeah, we're okay. That's why we drafted Blake Corum, right? That's why we drafted Blake Corum. Tim Burns. I'm giving Cardi a week. He's irritating me now. So many bigger things than Cardi. But, and again, they are still alive. We're going to look at this here. The Rams are still very much alive because you got 3 division games left. So you're very much alive and stuff. So those games are going to be tight, and you're going to have to rely on your kicker. Now, again, is there a kicker out there that you can rely on, right? Is there a kicker you can rely on? Now, I know he's missed kicks in his last 3 games, I think they said. I'm not counting that Miami game because he's the one that made the kick at 52 yards, and then they had to kick again because Limmer had motion and made it a 57-yarder. I might give him some slack on that one, but he's got to dial it up, right? Half a season in, knowing the consequences of where the Rams are at and what they're doing, and then the games are going to be tight. He's got to make those field goals. He's got to make them and those extra points. And so no, I could see the Rams looking for somebody out there, hey, who's got some leg left? Maybe Steve Christie has some leg left, right? Maybe Mason Crosby, Frank Corral. Maybe there's somebody out there, right? Jeff Wilkins. See if he's got any boot left in that foot of his. But yeah, I think that's becoming an issue. Tim Burns, until the Kyron fumble, we looked hungry. That fumble changed it all. Steeler fan Rob and I were all about that first drive play calling. Hey, it was great. It was great. I think the Rams came to play. But I think some of those things whatever the adjustment was that the Eagles made, Kellen Moore, Fangio made an adjustment, right? He made an adjustment. That first Eagle drive that netted 3 points, I was okay with that because this is what Shula's done, right? They give up something early and then they kind of tighten things up. And that just didn't happen, right? Fangio made an adjustment and somehow, somewhere along the way, McVay couldn't adjust, probably because if your interior guys aren't blocking, right, and your edge guys aren't blocking, there's nothing he can do, right? There's nothing he can do. You saw the Nakobe Dean sack where he just blew up Kyron Williams. It was brutal, right? He just leveled that dude and came in for the sack. So going back to Stafford, he still stayed remarkably healthy for everything that's gone on this year, and we'll see what's going to happen. All right, let's look to around the NFL and other places. I know it's football night, guys. I promise I won't keep you too long. I appreciate you guys hanging with me. Saquon Barkley also covered Nick Sirianni's sins at the end of the first half. Did you see that? What was that? They're at the 50, and they try to run it out on 4th down, and the Rams get the ball with 2 seconds. And, of course, Stafford got sacked. But what was that? If the Rams had scored on that, and they'd been up 14-13 at the break, completely different ball game, right? Completely different ball game. And but Barkley was so great, no one was talking about Sirianni at the end of the first half. Gerard Mayo, right? I kind of moved him down on the list as far as coaches about to get fired, but I had to move him back up. It's dumb statements, man. I understand what he's saying. He says, I can't do what these guys do between the lines, but you can't distance yourself. You got to say, hey, I got to do a better job of communicating. You got to fall on the sword. You got to do all that stuff. And he didn't. That's just weak sauce, man. Just weak sauce. That's the kind of thing. He shouldn't have been hired anyway. Deebo Samuel. Did you see the ball that went right through his hands last night or yesterday? Brendan Allen threw the ball there, put it right in Deebo Samuel's hands, and went right through them. And that's why Deebo Samuel is good, but not elite, right? He's a really good player, but he's never been an elite receiver. And, with so many guys out, they needed to do a favor for Brandon Allen. They needed to have his back on the field, and Deebo didn't. And 49ers, they look weak. Trent Williams, everything, they look weak. They look really weak. And whoever their special teams guy is, gee whiz, was brutal, was absolutely brutal. And then the good news for the Rams is they spent a 3rd-round pick, number 99 overall, in 2023 on Jake Moody. I love it when they do that kind of stuff, right? I think one of the things we need to stop thinking about, though, in the long run, is that the 49ers are the Rams' nemesis. The Rams' nemesis very well could be the Seahawks and Cardinals these days, and the Rams need to keep an eye on them. So the Lions are 10-1, Eagles are 9-2, Seahawks are now in first place at 6-5, Falcons were on bye, they're 6-5. Vikings 9-2, Packers 8-3, Texans fell to 7-5, and this is where that Ram loss was just brutal, right? Everybody did everybody a favor. The Cowboys did the Rams a favor by beating the Texans. The Vikings did the Rams a favor by beating the Bears, who are 4-7 now, with one of those wins over the Rams, but they're a game behind the Rams. Rams could have moved 2 games ahead of the Bears and only been 1 game back of the Texans, right? That's why everything lined up perfectly yesterday for the Rams, and they swallowed the jalapeno and they blew it, right? Cardinals now are the 8th team looking to get in the playoffs, 1 game behind the Texans. The Rams are 5-6. 49ers are 5-6. Tampa Bay, keep an eye on them down the stretch. They're 5-6 because the Falcons, we're going to see how they're going to be coming out of bye. Well, not so good, Chief. On the AFC, you got the Chiefs 10-1, Bills 9-2, Steelers 8-3, Texans 7-5. Ravens, Bolts right now, and the Broncos are 7-5. Wow, that's impressive. Dolphins are 5-6. The Chargers continue to win, and the Broncos keep winning. The Dolphins may be chasing the Ravens. If the Ravens lose tonight, they're 7-5. They're 7-5, and things get real serious there in Baltimore. Remember, they were going to the Super Bowl 2 weeks ago, right? Because they always go to the Super Bowl in October, November, right? Oh, we're going to the Super Bowl. And then we'll get to January, and either there's a playoff failure or lo and behold, because their defense is so poor, they don't make the playoffs. Then we're going to hear, oh, they don't give LeVar enough help, right? Rams remaining schedule. It's the Saints, Bills, 49ers, Jets, Cards, Seattle. Can the Rams beat the Saints? Yes. Can they beat the Bills? No. Can they beat the 49ers? Yes. Can they beat the Jets? Yes. And then they got to beat the Cardinals and Seahawks. They're going to need some help. So I could see going 5-1 the rest of the way. I could see it. You go 5-1 the rest of the way, you finish 10-7, chances are you're going to be going to the playoffs. Anyway, tired of losing your fantasy games because you forgot to check your lineup with Bench the app? That's a thing of the past. Benched is the only app that ensures you never leave a non-starting player in the lineup. Don't miss out on crucial points. Don't be the one who forgot to bench a player on game day. Win your league, keep your pride, and let Bench the app handle the rest. Download Bench the app today and dominate your fantasy season. And of course, our sponsors at Kissler Law, we appreciate all of them. Also want to say thank you to guys for buying my books. They're on Amazon. Check them out there. 3 football books are out there. They've done very well. Thank you for checking them out. Latest one is Game Day in the RamCave, about a fictional NFC championship game between the Rams and Packers. If you purchased it, let me know. Loved to talk about it. I do all these things because I have a day job. I pastor a small church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Nazarene, and you can see us right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual, burbankfaithvirtual.com, Burbank Faith Virtual, all across social media. Okay, let's just look at the league. We'll do college tomorrow because I know you guys want to get to that game. Let's see, Bill, is this year team better than last year's team or worse? I think it's got more components to be a better team, actually, Bill. I do. I think it does. I think it has more components to be a better team. We got more edge rushers. We got more willing to put pressure on the ball. I think the secondary is technically better. Is anyone missing Darian Kendrick? Right? Maybe we miss him a little bit. and so that part's better. Continuity along the offensive line. Maybe we're missing Coleman, right? We're missing Coleman on the at center, but you needed to upgrade from there. He was okay, but you needed to upgrade. And then Coleman Shelton I'm talking about. And then of course you brought Havenstein back, you brought Dotson back, you signed him. You had Avila, had a great rookie year. You had Alaric Jackson, but there are just a lot of injuries and different things that just caused it to go crazy. And you could pin it all on the offensive line. That's how I would view it. Tim Burns, talking head. The 49ers looked like crap yesterday. And despite the wins, we can put a fork in Dallas and the Bengals. They aren't what the talking heads tell us they are week after week. Nope, they weren't. But the Cowboys did us a favor last week. They did us a big favor. Bill, can the Rams make enough adjustment to beat the Eagles if they make the playoffs? Yeah, I think if you get to the playoffs, it could be any game is going to be different, right? We've seen it a lot. We've seen it a lot in football. That second meeting, adjustments and all those things, I think you'll see it. Thing is, can the Rams go 5-1, right? If they can go 9-8, I think they still miss the playoffs. But if they can go 5-1, I think they get in, and so that's where they're at. USA expat. Is it time to let LaFleur call plays? Someone brought that up somewhere in social media. I heard that. And, that could be an issue. I didn't have a problem necessarily with the play calling, but what I'm surprised is no one here is talking about what is Matthew Stafford doing in a game we're down by 3 touchdowns with 2 minutes to play, right? Just so the Eagles can get fat and rack up some stats on him, right? Yeah, that part really bugged me, but I don't think the play calling was the issue. I think it was the offensive line and the inconsistency of the offensive line and mostly our defense, right? Tim Burns, Daniels is that guy, even in the loss. Okay. All right. Daniels is that guy. Are you talking about Jaden Daniels? Yeah. Yeah, they came close. That was a disaster for Washington yesterday, but it was marvelous because if the Rams had won and gone to 6-5, they only would have been 1 game back. 1 game back out of the wild card spot. Bill, the fumble on the opening drive drove me crazy. Absolutely. He fumbled it. I'm not saying he didn't fumble it, but how frustrating was it to see the Rams run the play and then they go, oh, wait a second, let's rewind, because the refs didn't see the flag. He didn't get the flag out early enough. Sorry, he didn't get the flag out where a ref could see it. The ball was snapped. That's not our bad. That's the Stripes' fault. That's New York's fault. That's Nick Sirianni's fault. But instead, we paid the price for it, right? It was a fumble. There was no argument about that. But the ball had been snapped. The play had been run. I don't know what more you could have done. And then I got to hear people whine about, those pass interference calls. Really? Really? I mean, they just bent all the rules for them for the snap on the fumble. Anyway, drove me crazy too. Drove me crazy. I will say, when it was 27-14 and the Rams were driving, I told myself, I was just looking at if they can score here, make it 27-21, I see a chance, right? And then, of course, I think that was the drive where they wanted the penalty, then they didn't want the penalty, then they took the penalty, right? It's like I said, like counting votes in California. How long does it take, right? And how many chances do you get at a certain point, right? So anyway, drove me crazy too. I'm right there with you, Bill. Okay, let's look at the week. Steelers-Browns. I took the Browns. I took the Steelers, and the Browns won the Bill Nelson Bowl. Chiefs-Panthers and the Matt Moore Bowl. Didn't think it would happen this week, but the Chiefs are due for a clunker. Vikings and Bears. Darnold guts it out, and the Vikes do. And Detroit should be weary because injuries are mounting up for the Lions. Titans and Texans. I took the Texans, and it was the Titans in the Tennessee in the Houston Bowl. Give Stroud an offensive line, and all things revert back to 2023. I think he needs help along that offensive line. Lions, Colts. I think the Lions are going to have problems when they play the Vikings. They beat the Colts pretty handily yesterday. Dolphins, Patriots in the Irving Fryer Bowl. Things might get a little tougher for the Finns on Thanksgiving. Buccaneers, Giants. Hey, Tampa Bay. They can still chase down when it looked like they were fading away. The break came at a right time. The bye came at a right time for them. They did what they needed to do. They went to New York and they won 30-7. And then, of course, you got Malik Neighbors sounding off, who's done nothing in the NFL, sounding off about his coach. But they all, to a man, if everyone has said the player says Daniel Jones wasn't our problem, Brian Daboll's on the hot seat. He's got to be on the hot seat. I can't see this guy surviving. I have moved him to the top of my fireable list. Cowboys, Taxskins. Dallas did the Rams a solid. Taxskins kicker is now applying for unemployment insurance after missing that point after. Broncos, Raiders. Bo Nix kind of makes Denver easy to root for. Not a Denver fan, but I do kind of like Bo Nix. Future is bright in Green Bay after winning the Tim Harris Bowl 38-10. Things are pretty weird in Fog City, man. They're in trouble there in Frisco. Cardinals, Seahawks, the Theodis Brown Bowl. Gino does the Rams a solid, and the Rams can't take advantage of it. And then, of course, the Roman Gabriel Bowl went to the Eagles. There we go. All right. I think we got just about everything in I wanted to get in.
It was a stone groove, man.
It was a stone groove, except for the Rams. All right, let's look at and I got the Chargers in the Harbaugh Bowl tonight. All right, let's look at this date in Rams history. Let's see. Born on this date, former Ram cornerback Eddie McMillan, drafted in 73, part of the Willie Ellison deal that netted the Rams draft picks to take Jim Youngblood and Eddie McMillan, who was a 3-year starter for the Rams. Doug Smith was born on this day in 1956. And Blake Corum turns 25 today. So there you go for the Rams having a birthday. Also, maybe the Rams' bad experience last night was some carryover from what happened 5 years ago. Tonight is the anniversary in 2019 of the Rams 45-6 loss to the Baltimore Ravens. If you remember that game, hopefully that put the Rams wearing the mustard jerseys. Never did like them. All right, tomorrow we're off, but I thought this was interesting. November 26, 1982, Rams waived both Billy Waddy and Cullen Bryant. Wow, right? 2004, the Rams waived Sean Lindetta. I think Sean Lindetta was the last surviving USFL player still in the NFL in 2004. Also, this is interesting. In 1956, on November 26, 1956, the NFL held its draft. They used to hold their draft in the fall for the next year. For the players that were coming in 1957, they held the draft in the fall of 56. Rams had a bunch of picks. Of course they did. With the number 2 overall pick, they took John Arnett, Jaguar John Arnett from USC. They took all-pro wide receiver Del Schaffner at number 11. At number 14, they took Jack Pardee, who was with the team from 1957 through 1970 before going to Washington in the Ramskins trade. And at number 26, they took Billy Ray Smith, who became a stalwart with the Colts in the 60s after the Rams traded him. And then Lamar Lundy. They took Lamar Lundy, who played with the Rams through 69, key member of the Fearsome Foursome. They took him at number 47 overall. That's a heck of a draft for the Rams. I think that might have been a Pete Rozelle draft, actually. Pretty interesting stuff there. All right, Tim Burns, as a sports writer and being the all-knowing guy you are, what is your take on the Caitlin Clark effect this year? Caitlin Clark? Are you talking about just its effect on the WNBA? Let me know, amigo. I'm not sure what you want me to answer on that one. Let me know and I'll answer it. The Caitlin Clark effect. I think she exposed a lot of what the WNBA is. It's charity. It's horrible basketball. It's just horrible because they're expecting the women to play like the men. It's not entertaining, right? It's just not. She makes it entertaining. And also, we know this is true. I'm sorry. Color of her skin, sexual preferences. We know how this league works. Folks, I got stories. Of young ladies that were adjacent to the area we covered for high school basketball that went to major colleges, and the pressure on them, not only at the college level, but at the WNBA level, was, you're one of us. And you know what I mean by one of us. You're going to join the rainbow crowd. The pressure was awful on them. Awful, right? That if you're not one of them, you're ostracized and everything. And Caitlin Clark is just so good that she can rise above that. And it's a sick business. And so I wish Caitlin Clark makes $1 billion and just says, I'm going to go play in Europe, or I'm going to go play in the 3-on-3 league, because the WNBA needs her more than she needs the WNBA right now. It's true. It's just true. How many of you watched basketball, the WNBA? Caitlin Clark is worth watching. She absolutely is. I hope that answers it there, Mr. Burns. I'm going to wait till 40 minutes, so I'll hang out for a couple minutes here if you guys have any other questions. I don't have anything else here. I'm just looking. Let's see. Oh, here's a funny story. On this date in 1968, the Rams signed a free agent defensive back named Lee Calland. Calland never plays for the Rams, but then is tossed into a deal to acquire Richie Pettibone from the Bears May 17th, 1969. Pettibone, a George Allen favorite, plays 2 seasons with the Rams, 69 and 70, starts 26 games at strong safety, picks off 6 passes, and has a great run with the Rams, and then gets dealt to Washington and George Allen for a 2nd-round pick and a 6th-round pick in 1973. But that 2nd-rounder was upgraded to a 1st-rounder in 72 when it was discovered that the Redskins had previously traded that 2nd-round pick. But the Rams were forced to give that 1st-round pick they got from the Redskins to the Bears because they signed wide receiver Dick Gordon in October of 72. And Dick Gordon, I think it was in 69 or 70, caught 70 passes, and he was lightning fast. And so they made that move, and it just didn't work out. He appeared in 9 games for the Rams, caught 3 passes, 1 touchdown. So that was interesting. But that 6th round pick the Rams did get to keep from the Redskins turned out to be journeyman linebacker, special teamer Jim Peterson of San Diego State. He spent 2 years playing special teams, scored a touchdown on a 67-yard fumble recovery against the Saints in 75. And then in 76, he's traded to the Buccaneers for 2 draft picks. And one of those draft picks turns out to be Dwight Scales, pretty good special teamer for the Rams. How's that? How's that for doing some homework there? All right. Eagles fan, thank you for joining us, and you have all the rights. Only thing I'll ask you, Eagles fan, you come here and you can talk all the trash you want, because I'm wearing green right now, right? You can talk all the trash you want because you earned it. You earned it. You beat the snot out of the Rams. You turned the Rams into an Omega or Alpha Omega, whatever. Thank you, sir. May I have another moment, right? The Rams just got the snot beaten out of them, and the Eagles did it. Congratulations. But if you're going to be here, hit the subscribe button or the like button. Michael Negretti, hola, Pastor Joe. The Rams don't look like a playoff team, but I hope they make the playoffs. We need an O-line that won't get punked around. We need a DL man that will clog the middle. I agree with the DL guy that clogged the middle because we don't know what Bobby Brown's future is, and the Rams are going to have to spend a draft pick because I don't want to come back with this offensive line because obviously they got doubts about Jonah Jackson. We saw Steve Avila get pushed around. Either he's out of shape, hard to tell with those big guys. Either he's out of shape or that knee's not ready, but do you want to go another year waiting to find out? So you got to invest a premium pick along that offensive line. That dream of having that interior line sewed up for 3 years, which it looked like it was, does not look like it is as of now. I agree with you. Dano, should the Rams sign Stafford? Yes, absolutely. They should sign Stafford. 100% agree. You should sign Stafford. Stafford's not the issue. There's no diminishment in Stafford's play. In fact, I think it speaks to the shape he's in that he's getting his butt kicked. And here's the thing. If you got to pay him 60, you pay him 60 if he keeps playing at this level because he's been a bargain the whole time he's been with the Rams. Think what this league does. It gives 58 and 60 million to guys like Dak Prescott, right? It gives big money to these guys that can't play. We've been getting Stafford on a bargain deal. We have. And we owe it to him to keep investing in that offensive line, and we do need a physical cornerback. So yeah, Dano, I do agree the Rams should sign Stafford. All right, we hit the 40-minute mark. I think we're good. I think we got everything in. I got 9 wins this week. I need one more win to get to 10. And then life will be good. All right, so rooting for the Bolts tonight. Okay, guys, thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. When is your next book? When is my next book? I am actually working on my next book right now. I'm in rewrites right now. That's what I'm doing, Mr. Burns. It's about a fictional radio station, and it's a little cosmic type of stuff. All right, there you go. Michael Negretti, sign Stafford and sign a backup. I think that's what Jimmy G is. Yeah, that's where we're at. Okay, thanks, Mike, Tim, Dano, Eagles fan, congratulations. Bill, thanks for being here. USA expat, all you guys for hanging out with me. I know you're watching football right now. God bless. Take care. This too shall pass. Air your grievances. We will see you soon.